Good day to you. This sermon recap is for Advent 1, the year C, and the year of Luke, preached at University Lutheran in Eau Claire, Wisconsin, December 2nd, 2012. Advent 1 always begins the new church year, and so we move from where we've been in year B, the year of Mark, into year C, the year of Luke. And so we begin Advent together here in the beginning part of December. A little background that Advent has been celebrated for a very long time in the church, early 4th and 5th centuries. Initially, it was connected with Epiphany. Epiphany being the most important season in the early church to declare to the world, to say to the world who this Jesus was and the wondrous acts of this Jesus. Somewhere along the 9th century, the season got shortened and connected with the heightened celebration of Christmas. And then in the middle part of the next century, in the 15th century or so, there was this added focus on the second Advent, the second coming of Jesus at the very beginning of Advent, and then transitioning through the season to focus more on the birth of Christ and Christmas. So that Advent is simply a Latin word meaning arriving or coming. And so the church stops in this beginning part of December, in the beginning part of winter, and focuses on the coming of the Christ, both as a glorious Lord and as a child born of the Virgin Mary. And so that's why we get in this first Sunday in Advent, the candle, the first candle on the first Sunday of Advent is called the prophecy candle or the hope candle. We get this piece from Luke, an apocalyptic piece. In fact, it's the exact same piece that we had from Mark a couple weeks ago. So that the church fairly purposefully ends the church year with the hope of the Christ's return and begins the next season, the next church year with that same hope. And now from Luke. There will be signs in the sun and the moon and the stars, and on the earth distress among nations. Confused by the roaring of the sea and the waves, people will faint from fear and foreboding of what is coming upon the world, and the powers of the heavens will be shaken. They will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. Now when these things begin to take place, stand up and raise your heads, because your redemption is drawing near. Then he told them a parable. Look at the fig tree and all trees. As soon as they sprout leaves, you can see for yourselves and know that the summer is already near. So also, when you see these things taking place, you know that the kingdom of God is near. Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all these things have taken place. All things. Sorry, that's an important piece. Heaven and earth will pass away, but my words will not pass away. Be on guard, so that your hearts are not weighed down with dissipation and drunkenness and the worries of this life, and that they catch you unexpectedly like a trap. For it will come upon all who live on the face of the whole earth. Be alert at all times, praying that you may have the strength to escape all these things that will take place and to stand before the Son of Man. It's a fairly common theme in lots of different stories in real life, in adventure stories, in fantasy stories, that you go from one place, the hero or the character goes from one place to a new place. And once arriving in that new place that is so different from the ordinary and the plain, and so whether that be Narnia or whether that be Oz, the land of Oz, or whether that be like Harry Potter going off to school, Hogwarts, that something is so different about the land where you arrive that it becomes clear, in some sense, literally, it's a magic place, and so that the place that you once were at, i.e. that you're not in Kansas anymore, that you've gone to a new place. Apocalypse is like that. Advent is like that we arrive at this place that is Advent, that we arrive at this place that is apocalypse. And typically, when we hear apocalyptic stuff, we get caught in thinking about Left Behind stuff and Revelation stuff, that we begin thinking about, are we seeing the signs? Are we marking the signs? Are we noticing the signs? And am I in the right place at the right time? And I don't think that's what Jesus and Luke is after. So, a really simple sermon about Advent and apocalypse, that time is different in this place, that we just missed that the verse before where our gospel started is a Greek word for time that's driven. It's a driven time. It's a time that has an end, meaning that it has a purpose. And so that time in Advent belongs to God. That God is present in time, not simply passing time, but that God is present in the time of Advent, fulfilling time, driving time to its end. And so that no matter what your life and time is like in these days, whether time goes fast for you or slow for you, whether it drags or flies, whether it's difficult in time, that in Advent, in this place that is apocalypse, time belongs to God. The psalm for yesterday was Psalm 25, and David says that your kindness and loving and mercy and loving kindness, everlasting kindness, hesed, is from of old, meaning that it fills up time. And so past, present, and future drives us in Advent, in God's time, to God's good end. So that time belongs to God. So that in these days and in this place of Advent, lift up your head, stand up, because your redemption is drawing near. That's a second thing then, is that place is different. Redemption is here. In fact, you could call the very place of Advent redemption. You could call the very place of apocalypse redemption. But it's really important to hear that in Luke, that it's not simply about Alan getting his life right, or little Alan getting his redemption. All of creation in Luke is consumed in the redemption that is God's presence. And so you get this reference to sun and moon and stars and trees, fig tree and all trees. That is to say, for Luke, all things are consumed in God's redemption. All things are taken up into God's redemption. One commentator said it's like the creation story backwards. I don't know if it's backwards, but it's the creation story somehow consumed in God's redemption. That's the good news. That this is a word of hope for people hanging on by a thread. This is a word of hope for a people of faith. This is a word of hope for a people looking for redemption. And so redemption draws near you for the sake that it consumes everything. That God is in this place simply, again, not knowing where else to be, but God is in this place that is Advent, that God is in this place that is apocalypse for the sake of redemption, for the sake that his love and mercy should take up everything, all of creation, all the cosmos, the planets and the stars and the sun and the moon and the trees, the fig trees and all trees. And again, that's what's so important for Luke, that that little hint of all trees, it's for all people. That Luke is like Paul, that the surest sign of God's redemption is that all folks are gathered, Jew, Greek, male, female, free, slave, is gathered up in this redemption. That little thing that I messed up on reading the text where Jesus says, "Truly I tell you, this generation will not pass away until all things have taken place." Not all these things, as if it's a counting game, as if it's a special calendar, Advent calendar that you get out and see, oh, there's the sun, oops, there's the moon, oops, there's the sun. It's all things, meaning then this generation being all people, all creation, all life is gathered up in this redemption that belongs to God. That all of life, all of creation, all of cosmos is swept up in this mercy and love that belongs to God. And so Advent is that place. Advent is that place where the kingdom comes near and resides in a way that all things, including ourselves, are gathered up. Here's probably the most important. I left it for third. It's different here. It's different here. So stand up, raise up your heads, because redemption has drawn near, because the Christ, the Son of Man, in Luke's language, is here. That where the Son of Man is the kingdom of God. And where the Son of Man is the redemption of God. And where the Son of Man is God's love and mercy. That this Jesus in this place is different because of the Son of Man. That again, in the church's wisdom, that we'll get to Christmas soon enough. And we'll get to angels and Mary and Bethlehem and babes and wise men soon enough. The hope of these days, the profound, all-consuming, all-absorbing hope of these days is that Jesus, the Son of Man, as victorious Christ, is here. That your redemption draws near for the fact that Christ is here. And so I cannot say this enough, times enough, loud enough, clear enough. that the place and the time that is Advent and Apocalypse is meant to move us past despair and past cynicism and past self-absorption and past boredom and the busyness of these holidays, to move us past all of that to the place and to the time and to the person that is the Christ, and in the redemption that belongs and comes with the Christ. That's what Apocalypse does. That's what Advent, I pray, does. It moves us past, it draws us in, past the cynicism and the hopelessness and the tiredness of our days, that we begin again in Advent. And these words of Apocalypse from Luke 21 is about lifting us up for hope. That's why Jesus says, stand up, lift up your heads. This isn't about keep your head down. This isn't about these are terrible, awful days. Watch out. Be careful. It's about a Christ who arrives, and time is driven toward the fulfillment of who Jesus is. That time and place is driven to the redemption that draws near, for the sake that all of the world and all of creation and all of us is gathered up in the redemption that belongs to God in the creation story and in this recreated gloriousness of who Jesus is as Christ. This is hope. Not that I get it right, not that I see right, not that I hear right, not that I get my calendar right, but that I lift up my head, that I stand up. Because in these days of Advent that soon will become days of Christmas, Jesus draws near, and redemption draws near, and all of creation that moans and groans will know that they are consumed also in the love and mercy and grace and hope that belongs to God. Grace and peace to you. Be well in all things. A most blessed beginning of Advent.